Hamas and Israeli representatives are in Cairo to try to negotiate a ceasefire deal for Gaza again. The US has called for the Rafah crossing to reopen after Israel took control of it late yesterday. Benjamin Netanyahu's government claims it was being used for terrorist purposes, but is yet to provide evidence of that. Let's get the latest with our Global Affairs editor, John Lyons. John, we had celebrations short-lived yesterday in Gaza. Israel said that this proposal that Hamas said it had agreed to didn't meet their needs, and they then seized control of this crossing. What hopes do these talks have?
Well, Gemma, I think there's more hope to these talks than people realise, and I think part of what's going on at the moment in Rafah is posturing as well by both sides, by both the Israeli army and Hamas. 3 days before, Hamas fired some rockets at Kerem Shalom crossing, killed 3 or 4 Israeli soldiers, and I think they were trying to make a statement that we still have military capability and therefore we're going to the negotiating table with some strength. And I think likewise Israel is wanting to make the point that they can get to the very south of Gaza Strip. They've gone the whole length now, and that essentially they've cleared, as they would use that term, with the exception of Rafah, the whole of the Gaza Strip. So I think a lot of it is for the purposes of the negotiations going on, but also I think strategically Israel wants to ensure that none of the Hamas fighters who are still in Rafah, and that's where most of the remaining Hamas fighters are, can get into Egypt through that crossing.
What happened at the crossing yesterday?
What happened yesterday was the Israeli army, with tanks that we can see now, essentially went down there. They faced no opposition. As you can see, there's no resistance there. That's to the south of Rafah. That's just on the outskirts of the town. So they haven't gone right into the centre of Rafah where there would be many Hamas fighters left, and so they've essentially gone in there, sealed it off, shown the Israeli flag, and as I say, I think it's a statement of victory from their for their public as much as anything.
And they claim that this crossing was being used for terrorist purposes. Did they expand on that?
No, they haven't, and I take the Israeli army as any organisation, Hamas, any group. We need to look with speculation and with scepticism at some of what they're saying. Don't forget, it was the Israeli government and army who accused the UNRWA officials, 12 of them, of being complicit in the October 7 attacks, and on the basis of that claim, that unsubstantiated claim, Australia, amongst other countries, Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese, cut off funding to UNRWA and without a skerrick of evidence for that claim. And in fact, there still has been no evidence, and various countries are resuming it. So I take that with scepticism. However, having said that, it's a war, and Israel is fighting Hamas, and they strategically obviously think it's better to encircle Rafah, which have now done by having the troops around the south, the tanks. They now have Rafah encircled. So the question is, do they actually go into the centre of Rafah, which is what is making the United States and other countries very nervous. And
the US has urged Israel to reopen that crossing. As you said there was little resistance there. How vital is it?
Absolutely vital. I mean, the media often talks about Gaza's on the brink of famine. Gaza is in famine now. There's no better source for that than Cindy McCain, the head of the World Food Programme, who says that there is a full-blown famine in Gaza, in the north of Gaza right now. Children, people are dying now, have been dying for some time. It's been 7 months or so where there's been very, very limited food, water, medicines, anything getting in there. Occasionally a few trucks will get in and then it will be closed off again. So essentially nothing's getting in there now. As you can see, the Rafah is the main crossing where the aid's been coming in, and obviously the aid trucks do not want to be coming in if they've got 10 or 15 Israeli tanks in front of them.
And John, tell us about this path that Benjamin Netanyahu is treading. He's got pressure from the far right of his government, pressure from the families of the hostages, and also the international pressure.
That's right. He has the US president and the White House on one side wanting an end to this. Clearly, the head of the CIA, William Burns, has been in Cairo. He's trying to broker a deal. They have the families of the hostages, as you say, who are getting increasingly angry and believe that 7 months on, their relatives should have been out months ago. And then, and this is the most powerful group on Benjamin Netanyahu, which is extraordinary that they're more powerful than the President of the United States. Two men, Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who are very hardline right-wingers. Recently on a Four Corners program, the former head of Shin Bet, Ami Ayalon, described them to me as terrorists. And as the former head of the security service, I think he has the credibility to use those sorts of terms. They are really hardliners, and they are saying you must prosecute the war all the way to the end. No deals with Hamas. We do not give up. And if they withdraw their support for the coalition, Benjamin Netanyahu is an ex-Prime Minister. So they're the two people primarily he's listening to.